Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Israeli attacks on Gaza have killed at least 56 Palestinians over the past day, even as 3 more people starved to death amidst Israel's months-long siege. Among the latest dead are 22 more people killed while seeking food. With the latest killings, health officials report the death toll from Israel's 22-month-long bombardment and siege of Gaza has topped 62,000. But that number is likely a vast undercount, as more than 11,000 people remain missing and are presumed dead. The UN says nearly 19,000 children are among the dead. Meanwhile, Gaza is home to the largest number of child amputees in modern history, with over 4,700 cases of children who've lost limbs to Israeli bombs, many of which were supplied by the United States. This is Mohammed Hassan, a boy who lost his leg to an Israeli strike in July that killed his mother and other family members.
I
was going to buy falafel. When I came back before reaching home, I looked up and saw the missile falling on us. I tried to run, but it was too fast. I found myself thrown against a wall, and when I looked, my leg was gone. Then someone carried me and brought me to this hospital.
In Israel, protesters led by family members of Israeli hostages blocked a highway in Tel Aviv Tuesday to demand a prisoner exchange and a ceasefire in Gaza. The protest follows nationwide demonstrations Sunday that saw up to 1 million Israelis take to the streets demanding Prime Minister Netanyahu end the war.
The only thing that works is putting pressure on the Israeli government to make a deal, to seal the deal and bring all of our hostages back and stop the war in Gaza. We will not stop until all our hostages are home.
The United Nations marked World Humanitarian Day Tuesday by issuing a grim report documenting the killing of 383 aid workers around the world last year. That's a 31% rise from the year before, driven largely by the Israeli attacks on Gaza, where 181 humanitarian workers were killed by Israel last year. Meanwhile, 60 humanitarian workers were killed in Sudan as they worked to bring aid to people displaced by civil war. This is UN spokesperson Jens Laerke.
This must be a wake-up call to the world. People representing the best of humanity, trying to help others, are being killed in record numbers, and some of them in cold blood.
Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro says his government is deploying 4.5 million soldiers across Venezuela after the United States said it would be shipping more than 4,000 Marines and materiel to the Caribbean region. This comes after the Trump administration secretly signed a directive approving the Pentagon's use of military force supposedly to target Latin American drug cartels. The Trump administration's accused Maduro of being the leader of the Cartel de los Soles, offering up to a $50 million reward for information leading to Maduro's arrest, which critics have slammed as another attempt by the United States to destabilize Venezuela and other countries that oppose U.S. policy. Meanwhile, Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum has denied reports her government's collaborating with the United States for a sweeping new initiative dubbed Project Portero to combat drug cartels, which had been touted by the Trump administration as an effort to strengthen U.S.-Mexico relations. Sheinbaum spoke from Mexico City Tuesday.
Es importante aclarar esto.
It is important to clear this up because any joint communication is done together. We do not validate anything issued by a United States government agency that has not consulted with the Mexican government.
In California, advocates are demanding the release of a high school student who was taken by federal immigration agents earlier this month while he walked his dog in a Los Angeles neighborhood. The family of Benjamin Marcelo Guerrero Cruz described it as a kidnapping, as several plainclothes masked men wearing tactical vests forced the 18-year-old into an unmarked van. Educators and activists are calling on local officials and schools to protect Guerrero Cruz and other immigrant students. The teen is being detained at the troubled Adelanto ICE jail, about an hour and a half from his family in L.A. In more news from California, Customs and Border Protection officers opened fire on a family during an arrest operation in San Bernardino. The family was inside their vehicle on Saturday when armed, masked officers emerged from unmarked cars and surrounded their truck. An undocumented father from Mexico was driving the vehicle. His 18-year-old son and 23-year-old son-in-law, who are U.S. citizens, were in passenger seats. They refused to get out of the vehicle, prompting the officers to smash the windows. Fearing for his life, the driver sped away, with the agent firing his weapon. At least 2 bullets struck the vehicle. Law enforcement reportedly later arrived at the family's home, but no arrests were made due to sanctuary policies that prohibit local police from collaborating with federal immigration agencies. This all comes as the Washington Post reports ICE is planning to double its detention capacity to imprison more than 100,000 immigrants. ICE has already expanded its jails with plans to open new facilities across the country, including in Nebraska, where a remote prison's so-called work camp, dubbed Cornhusker Clink by Republicans, will detain hundreds of immigrants awaiting deportation. We'll have more on ICE's expanding detention machine later in the broadcast with Eunice Cho, senior counsel at the ACLU National Prison Project, who's brought the Trump administration to court over so-called Alligator Alcatraz in Florida. In Massachusetts, Boston Mayor Michelle Wu has rejected demands by Attorney General Pam Bondi to dismantle Boston's sanctuary city immigration policies or face arrest and the loss of federal funding. Boston was among 22 local governments across 13 states given a deadline of August 20th, that's today, to comply with the Justice Department order. Mayor Wu spoke outside Boston City Hall Tuesday.
The U.S. Attorney General asked for a response by today. So here it is. Stop attacking our cities to hide your administration's failures. The Trump administration seeks to divide, isolate, and intimidate cities and make Americans fearful of one another. But Boston is proof of something far more powerful than lies and intimidation. That safety and community come from loving your neighbor as yourself.
Federal prosecutors in Washington, D.C. have launched a criminal investigation into President Trump's claims that police manipulated data to make crime rates appear lower. The probe will be run out of the office of Trump's hand-picked interim U.S. attorney for the District of Columbia, former Fox News personality Jeanine Pirro. According to the Washington Post, Pirro's instructed prosecutors to maximize criminal charges against anyone arrested during Trump's federal takeover of Washington, D.C. Law enforcement, with the exception of people carrying rifles or shotguns in violation of Washington, D.C. laws. In those cases, Pirro said prosecutors should not seek felony charges. President Trump said Tuesday the Smithsonian Institution is too narrowly focused on negative aspects of U.S. history, including, quote, how bad slavery was, unquote. Trump's comments minimizing the horrors of chattel slavery came after the White House ordered a far-reaching review of Smithsonian Museum exhibitions in order to ensure they align with Trump's interpretation of U.S. history. A federal judge has ordered Mississippi to redraw its Supreme Court district lines after determining they violate the Voting Rights Act of 1965. On Tuesday, U.S. District Judge Sharian Aycock ruled the map, which has remained mostly unchanged for over a century, unlawfully dilutes the power of black voters. Mississippi has had just 4 black Supreme Court justices in its entire history, even though Mississippi's population is nearly 40% African American. In Texas, Democratic State Representative Nicole Collier has filed a lawsuit challenging the authority of Republican leaders to put lawmakers under police surveillance. On Monday, Collier was confined to the Texas state capitol overnight after she refused to be followed by state police monitor assigned to surveil her every move, a requirement for Democrats who'd fled Texas over a plan to redraw the state's congressional district maps to give Republicans 5 additional seats in the 2026 midterm elections. Collier spent a second night locked in Texas's state capitol Tuesday, joined in solidarity by fellow state representatives. Meanwhile, in California, Republican lawmakers have filed a lawsuit seeking to block a bid by Democratic Governor Gavin Newsom to redraw California's congressional maps to give Democrats 5 additional House seats. Newsom said the move is specifically designed to counteract Republican gerrymandering in Texas. The Justice Department says it's agreed to provide Congress with documents from its investigation into the dead serial sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein. The House Oversight Committee is set to begin receiving the files on Friday after it subpoenaed all records and communications from the case files of Epstein and his longtime co-conspirator Ghislaine Maxwell. On Monday, Trump's former Attorney General Bill Barr gave a deposition to the Oversight Committee about Jeffrey Epstein after he, too, was subpoenaed. The committee, however, has not issued a subpoena to Alex Acosta. That's President Trump's former labor secretary, who, as a U.S. attorney in 2008 in Florida, approved a non-prosecution agreement that shut down the federal probe into Epstein's sex trafficking ring and allowed Epstein to serve little time in prison. Meanwhile, in a highly unusual move, the Trump administration announced this week it's tapped Missouri Attorney General Andrew Bailey to be co-deputy director of the FBI. He'll serve alongside Dan Bongino, a former Secret Service agent and right-wing podcaster who Trump previously tapped as the FBI's second-in-command. Bailey's appointment comes after Bongino publicly clashed with Attorney General Pam Bondi and threatened to resign over the Trump administration's refusal to release the Epstein files. And in Minnesota, an appeals court has overturned the felony conviction of a water protector who was criminally prosecuted as part of a brutal crackdown on nonviolent Indigenous leaders and protesters opposing the Enbridge Line 3 pipeline. The court found pervasive prosecutorial misconduct and irregularities in the case, ordering a new trial. Mylene Viellard was arrested in 2021 after attaching herself to a 25-foot bamboo tower erected to block a Line 3 pumping station in Aiken County. She appeared on Democracy Now! In 2023.
All their children and grandchildren. I'm here because there is a real climate crisis and nobody seems to care. I'm here because that's the only thing I can do right now. I have to show up, and I have to defend this land, and I have to defend the rights of the people who have been on this land forever.
To see our 2023 interview with Mylene Viellard and Indigenous lawyer and activist Tara Houska, go to democracynow.org. And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman in New York, joined by Democracy Now!'s Juan Gonzalez in Chicago. Hi, Juan.
Hi, Amy, and welcome to all of our listeners and viewers across the country and around the world.
Thanks for watching Democracy Now! On YouTube. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to make sure you never miss a video. And for more of our audience-supported journalism, go to democracynow.org, where you can download our news app, sign up for our newsletter, subscribe to the daily podcast, and so much more.